literally my mind exploded understanding what it could make possible in regards of a monetary asset to be transferred without intermediaries. How can we build a product that eventually is accessible to plebs or to retail investors just like us, and granting the same benefits that big guys get? I think it's also important to understand that everything that is great in human society, everything that we have developed, has come from energy usage. It's not about using less energy, it's about using the right energy for the right things. And I think Bitcoin is the right thing. We are producing a product that is truly one of the most important innovations, if not the number one innovation of our 21st century. And that's why it's worth spending energy on it, investing energy on it. The way that we've set it up that we do not have any overruling voting power and can keep and stay in the business as CEO or as board, as basically, but we can be voted out at any time.
Quick info before we continue. Control over money is control over people. It's not just speech that's censored, it's your ability to own, transact, and stay independent. Governments print money to fund suppression, banks freeze accounts, and inflation quietly robs you. Bitcoin breaks this cycle. It's apolitical, censorship resistant, and incorruptible. It's money that no one owns but you. If you want to connect with people who see through the mainstream narrative, a motivated, critical, and diverse crowd from all political backgrounds, BTC Prague, the biggest Bitcoin event in Europe, is the place to be. Get your ticket now, use my promo code to get 10% off and support my channel. Thank you. Today we're talking to Sascha Grumbach. He's the CEO and founder of Green Mining DAO, and we're going to dive into Bitcoin mining and sustainability and how Green Mining DAO stays competitive and sustainable. We'll cover profitability, decentralization, and whether mining actually needs to integrate with other industries to stay ahead. So, Sascha, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Could you maybe tell us how you got into Bitcoin mining and how you found out that it actually could be sustainable?
Of course, I'm happy to do so. Well, I got to know Bitcoin in the early days, using it as early as 2012, and back then it was fascinating to me how it works and how I could transfer money between peer or in a peer-to-peer context, and I literally my mind exploded understanding what it could make possible in regards of a monetary asset to be transferred without intermediaries, without banks. Bitcoin mining crossed my path multiple times with opportunities where investments were sought by projects, be it Genesis mining or hosted mining or cloud mining. I back then found it, and that was 2016, 2017, more from a potential investment opportunity, not necessarily from a business perspective, because I was busy building other stuff back then. But I became a customer in a few projects, and that's basically how I got to know Bitcoin mining as a customer, or from the customer perspective.
Customer from you hired mining gear, or what kind of customer were you?
So I participated in cloud mining. So I did purchase shares in cloud mining, and I also participated in hosted mining, where I would become a customer whose hardware was hosted. And in both cases, the business didn't go long-term in the direction that I actually expected it would go. And in cloud mining, very quickly, the message came, your shares are not profitable anymore, therefore you don't receive anything anymore. And in the terms and conditions, it said if that's the case, then they can seize the shares. So that wasn't too satisfying. And the second thing was when I was hosted, I was told there was renewable energy, and we were running on that renewable energy. I visited the site and talked to the technicians on site, and it became clear very fast that we were not running on hydro energy back then, where I was being being hosted, but I was more in a it was gas being burned. So in both cases, I had an experience. I got my feet wet, as you would say in Germany, and it was an okay experience, but it was not what I would have expected from a product that I would want to build. So,
and what year is that, if I may ask? What year?
That's 2017, 18 now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when in 2020 end of 2020, I left my former company. Valentine and I discussed what are we doing next. So we were both building a leadership development company back then. And when we left it and we're discussing what are we doing next, it became very clear that we wanted to do something in Bitcoin, and that we really wanted to work on the core of it, and that's Bitcoin mining for us. And we were discussing how can we build a product that eventually is accessible to plebs or to retail investors, just like us, and granting the same benefits that big guys get, which is eventually I produce a Bitcoin between 30 to 50% cheaper than I can buy it on an exchange. I get it directly. I don't have to go into an exchange. I have a constant inflow of Bitcoin. I don't have to buy DCA or this and that. So there's multiple benefits of running a Bitcoin mine, but eventually you need cheap energy. You need to have a lot of know-how, and you need a lot of capital, because setting up a site with the scale of economics that makes sense, you need somewhere between 3 and 10 million to really make sense of it. And that's not the easiest for smaller investors, obviously. And now this is how we got into this. But you actually asked me when was the time that we identified it could be green or sustainable, right? And sustainability is something that we look at from two angles. Angle number one, renewable energy, sustainable energy. We were looking at hydro, solar, and wind as renewable energy sources. At least that's what we define them as. And all three of them have their benefits, their specific benefits. And we experimented the very first time with hydro. The second project was experimenting with solar energy. And now we're back to hydro with the last sites that we built. So I think that was 2021 when we set up the first site that was powered by first hydro and then solar. So that's when we noticed it works and it can be sustainable from an energy perspective. And the other angle of sustainability comes with how sustainable is the business structured so that it lasts for long. And in both my experience that I shared, I didn't have the feeling that it was set up in a way that is sustainable for the business owners as well as for the customers, which ended ultimately in the business not lasting forever. And then that obviously comes with find very cheap sources of energy, but get contracts that are clean, legal, and sustainable, long term. Set up an infrastructure, an organizational structure that allows you to scale and operate, not as a sketchy, new technology, but rather as a properly operating business, and we're finding that this is possible with the business that we're building now.
And do you now have both solar and then hydro, or now you only have hydro powered?
We're currently only operating hydro powered mining sites. The very simple reason is the availability of energy. With solar energy, as we know, sun doesn't always shine, wind doesn't always blow. And the nicest thing that you want to see as a Bitcoin miner is a 99% uptime, if not higher. And if you have renewable energy sources that are not delivering that, you are investing a lot of money into the capital or into the asset, into the infrastructure. But if it then doesn't run 100% of the time, you basically have to depreciate it over a time frame of 4 years. But then you depreciate it also during the times where it doesn't run. So you're effectively only running maybe half of the time, which is 2 years, but you have the cost of infrastructure for 4 years. And that's not the best case scenario. And obviously there's solutions which are called net metering or grid balancing, where you produce more energy throughout the day than you use, and then you put it into the grid and you use it then back during the night. But this is only possible in countries where you have specific rules and regulations that allow to eliminate network fees or sales fees or grid fees, which usually are and taxes, which are usually a big portion of the energy price. Yeah, when you and I consume a kilowatt hour for, let's say, 35 cents per kilowatt hour, there's only 5 to 7 cents ending up with the energy producer, and the rest is taxes, fees, grid, EEG, and so forth and so forth.
Wow. Yeah, and the advantage is probably also that you're location independent, so you can look for where the water flows, right? So you can go to these areas, and you went to Paraguay, right?
Correct.
And is your main operation now there? Is that correct?
That's correct. Our current main operation is there. We've built 3 sites, and the latest site, GM3, just went online with 2 out of 6 megawatt, scaling up to 6 megawatt throughout the year. And it's a very exciting project, very exciting country.
Yeah, it sounds really good. But I heard from other miners that they actually had to leave Paraguay because the terms were changing and not so good anymore. But for you, that was not a reason.
I mean, Paraguay has a very straightforward and defined framework for miners. You basically have free energy tariffs or free energy categories. One is for home users, for retail. The second is for commercial, everyone who has a restaurant, and the third one is for industrial, everyone who's producing goods. And those were traditionally the free categories in which businesses or people would classify in and then source energy and pay a different price. Retail is the cheapest, commercial comes next, and industrial is a little bit higher than the two. And but since Paraguay noticed the potential for their industry and their country of high energy consuming businesses coming from other countries into Paraguay and then setting up shop and consuming energy very stably, producing a lot of revenue, they defined a 4th category as high performance computing or high energy intensive and crypto mining. And this category is specifically for our industry. And it is true that the price per kilowatt hour is higher than it is in industrial. In the industrial category or in the retail and commercial category. So while miners were...
It's the highest.
It is the highest, yes. Yeah. It is the highest, but comparably to, let's say, Germany, Switzerland, it is a fraction of that. Yeah, we're talking about north of 30 cents. Even compared to the US, where many miners are mining with 7 or 8 cents per kilowatt hour. We're in Paraguay operating somewhere between 5.5 and 5.7, 5.9, depending on the month. There's multiple factors that have an impact on that, but that is still much lower than what you get if you go to Western countries. So we actually are very happy with the energy price because the energy price is comparably low. We have sustainable, stable energy, and we have a clear framework in Paraguay that defines the price per kilowatt hour for us. And that is eventually what you want. Yeah, of course, you can go into a country in Eastern Europe, Middle East, where energy prices are lower, but source is not 100% clear. As well as it is not 100% clear how the legal framework for these industries is set up. Is it legal? Is it not legal? Do they want it? Do they not want it? And as those kind of businesses come with a big investment, for us it is important to have political stability. And the reason why companies left Paraguay potentially is it is not the easiest environment. It is still a developing country that is very different from a business acumen than it is in Europe, in the EU specifically, or Germany even more. So it is a different ball game. You have to be aware of, you know, how to operate, and it definitely doesn't work without being there. You definitely have to have boots on the ground, and you know, develop your relationships, build your team up there, and make sure you have your security measures in place. But once that is set up, it is a country that is operatable very well, and you see the growth in the country everywhere. I mean, it's very natural. Countries with a lot of energy and cheap energy and stable energy see huge growth rates. Yeah? And there's a reason why Paraguay was also in the top 10 of GDP growth for multiple years over the last decade. And that is due to their energy. And we literally, when I was the first time there, I didn't see any fancy cars. Now they have a Porsche shop there, and they have a Range Rover shop there. And, you know, it's you see the country developing. And the second reason, I think, is that many companies that started mining there set up shop in one of these categories of these mining or energy categories that they should have not, and therefore sooner or later got problems with the government, because they said, well, if we set up these specific energy tariffs, then you better use them and not others, and then they got in trouble, yeah, because they were eventually in the wrong category, using tariffs or categories and prices that they were not allowed to. So, and I think it's either one of these two reasons, to be honest. Either they were in a category before and then they had to switch, and they made a conscious decision, we don't want to do that, we want to be in a different environment, or their machines were not efficient enough, because obviously if the energy price changes from 4 cents to 6 cents, just to make up numbers, and you have a 50% price increase, and you have set up your facility in a way that it was planned for 4 cents all along, and then you see the network hash rate growth that we are seeing, I can imagine that it probably busted many of the participants.
Yeah, interesting. And how many engineers do you have working on site? Are you an engineer, by the way?
I am not an energy by trade, engineer by trade. I'm coming from the business side of things, and I'm more an entrepreneur by practice. I've been building multiple different businesses over the last 10 years, and I'm more the jack of all trades, master of none, bringing together the right people and creating a vision and driving. My subtitle is usually "Get Shit Done Officer," so that's kind of where I come from. We have, it depends on the site. Yeah, we have 3 sites in Paraguay. All 3 of them are set up slightly differently, because obviously we're also evolving over time. The very first one is we're only part of a larger environment where we're basically being hosted. So we're paying the energy price plus a surplus on the operations that are being taken care for us. The second site is one that we constructed ourselves. It's a 1.1 megawatt site that has 2 engineers or 2 technicians basically swapping in shifts. And we have our third site that is up to 6 megawatt in size. Currently 2 are operating. And there we currently have 4 technicians, and that obviously scales over time. So we have a few technicians depending on the size of the site. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bitcoin mining didn't always have good reputation, right? I mean, it still maybe doesn't yet, but things are changing. So becoming more and more clear that it's a renewable solution. Why is it particularly so well suited for that? Why is it good for sustainable energy solutions?
So I'm happy to share that in a second, but it's important for me to touch on one other narrative that always kind of swings with that question. I think the advertisement that we've been seeing over the last 5 years, specifically with XRP funded campaigns, or with Greenpeace funded campaigns saying that Bitcoin is boiling the oceans and killing our planet, they have to be seen they can be seen from the angle, well, there is this weird data center structure that produces this funny magic internet money, and it consumes so much energy. And then if I hear that narrative, I could say, well, yeah, okay, what are we using all that energy for if we have a potential energy shortage? But if you look at it from the perspective that our financial system is rigged, that we have a money printing environment that devalues all of our personal assets by printing money that doesn't end up in our pockets, but ends up in projects, businesses, and individuals that are very few, which eventually increases the difference between poor and rich even more over time. And Bitcoin is an alternative to that financial money printing fiat system. And it is also, and that's the asset component, and it is also an alternative from the infrastructure perspective, where you and I can make transactions without any bank saying, no, I block this transaction, or I freeze your account. So if we have those two things, an asset that allows more for a fair distribution of wealth in our society, and a network that allows for a better infrastructure and more sovereign infrastructure for monetary transfers, then I would state the question, isn't it worth investing energy in that? And you would probably agree with me if I ask, is it worth investing energy in the health system to keep people alive longer? You would probably agree with me if I ask, is it worth investing energy or using energy for food production to keep people alive? Is it worth investing into transportation to get people from A to B? And you would confirm that. And I think everyone on the planet would say, yes, it's worth investing energy in that. So my question is then, why is it not worth investing energy into a financial system and infrastructure and a financial asset that means finance 3.0? And that just doesn't click with me. Now, I don't understand why this wouldn't be worth investing that kind of energy. And I think it does. So, and if you then understand, or if you take down this, if you go down this kind of argumentation or this way of looking at it, it's not even a question whether or not we use energy. We're using energy, just like we're using energy for any other infrastructure and any other industry. And I think it's also important to understand that everything that is great in human society, everything that we have developed, has come from energy usage. It's not about using less energy. It's about using the right energy for the right things. And I think Bitcoin is the right thing. And I know that there's this discussion whether or not it needs, there's a discussion between people that, we can do fracking because fracking is great and it gives us cheap energy, and we'll eventually figure out how we solve all the problems that we created by fracking. Or you can take a look at it, maybe we can also source energy from renewable sources, because there is also quite plenty energy that just comes from nature. And we belong in that camp. For us, it means we want to build a new ecosystem, the financial ecosystem that is long-lasting and brings our society to the next level. But we wouldn't want to sacrifice the current environmental ecosystem, and this is why we use renewable energy. And so, and this is the first kind of bucket that I really wanted to share and address before I go into your question that was about is it possible to use renewable energy, right? And what particular or is it possible to make it renewable, and what particular makes Bitcoin mining also a renewable industry, and potentially even one that can push the sustainability of our energy network and system. And that is, Bitcoin mining is one of the very few industries or technologies that can consume a lot of energy very stably at basically any location that you can think of, because we don't need much infrastructure other than a very simple low latency internet connection. And that makes it a prime user for stranded energy and surplus energy. It makes it a prime user for turning off within seconds if you need it. It makes it a prime support for building out the grid in locations that no one wants to go and put their industry in, because we can. We can very fast set up a data center. We can manage it with very few people. And we can, if then the energy infrastructure or the network is built out to transport the energy from A to B, we can like go away and have the energy source that was initially built there to transport the energy then to the town where it is needed. So you can use data centers like in the cases of in the United States and Texas and ERCOT, where they have blizzard storms and then they need energy. The miners immediately turn off the energy. The grid has the energy. They can use it in dangerous or emergency situations. Same is true for Paraguay. We have in GMD2, our second site, we're modulating. So we run between 4 and 8 hours a day. We're not running the mine, depending on the time of the year. And it helps the neighboring cities to, or basically specifically the city that we're in, to manage the available energy and in peak times much better. So this is where miners can support very well. Whereas if you're producing bread or if you're producing cars, and you then have either equipment or people or resources on site that may go bad, if they turn off, if they have to turn off to modulate a grid and to manage the grid, their stuff goes bad. Their people stand there without work. So these industries don't really suit to balance the grid in critical moments. And you need to do that, especially in countries where the grid is not built out so well yet. So that's one, right? But the second thing is, as I mentioned, imagine you have this nice hydropower or this nice big water pond or dam or river somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And at the same time, 500 kilometers or 200 kilometers further, you have a city that is growing so fast that it needs energy sooner or later. But the city can't afford to build a power dam there or a hydropower dam. But a Bitcoin miner would say, look, I'm going to take the energy, because what they need to do is they need to build a power plant and they need to build a grid, right? So there's always this chicken and egg question. What do I build first? Do I build a power line, let them stand empty for a short while or a long while, and then I build a power plant? Or do I build a power plant, but I don't use the energy and then I'm sitting there without the grid? But to finance both is a big project. It becomes easier if you say, I'm building that power plant first, and now I need a consumer that consumes the energy until I have enough money or until the time has passed that the grid is built out too, the network, the transmission lines. So that is a second component where it helps immense to have a business like Bitcoin miners operate there. And then there's this third component, which I think is the most important and one that we use a lot, and that is Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin miners produce not only hash rate or hashes, to not only hash in their algorithm, but they also produce heat, a lot of heat. And that heat can be used. We need heat for so many things: dry fruits, dry beef jerky, heat houses, clean water, whatever. There's so many things that you can do with heat. So if you manage to capture the heat and then build it or integrate it into a proper system, you have a dual use of the energy. And Bitcoin mining is just the machinery the Bitcoin mines are just the machinery that the energy goes through. And that is another thing where you have a double use of energy, and that you don't have in so many other industries. So these are just 3 examples, and I could go on and on and on. And I think that what we've seen over the last 4 years since we're in the business is immense in the industry. What everyone has come up with. There's greenhouses being heated. There is cities being heated. There is energy curtailment done so that cities can use the energy better. Yada yada yada. I think it's number one. We are producing a product that is truly one of the most important innovations, if not the number one innovation of our 21st century. And that's why it's worth spending energy on it, investing energy on it. And then secondly, the industry is so competitive that we need to come up with smart ideas to make it more sustainable and dual use and a circular economy no matter what. And we have been doing it. The players are doing it. And I think it's the coolest industry to be in.
Yeah, sounds very cool. I mean, the great explanation also with the money. I mean, it does require that people actually understand that there's a problem with money. But of course, for having a non-corruptible money system, of course, it makes sense to expend energy. And then I guess, yeah, the advantage is that it's flexible, time flexible, location independent, and you can tap into sources that otherwise the society cannot tap into yet. And you can build, like, you can help building it towards the society, like the example you brought up with the dam. Yeah. So is it realistic to say that it's Bitcoin mining of the future is all going to be like a subsidy mechanism that is embedded in other industry processes, maybe because it's so competitive? I mean,
I
you
don't
have an
think.
example.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you have your example with drying mangoes, right? So you're drying mangoes with excess heat, and other industries, yeah, use the heating power to heat cities, as you said, and that is a way to subsidize other industry processes, right? And since Bitcoin mining is also so competitive, that may be the future, no? Or are there also like the standard Bitcoin mining facilities that do only this? Are they going to survive in such an environment?
So I think that they will have a tough time doing so. 2 years ago, we made the conscious decision to always pair every of our site with an alternative business model. And it has its own challenges because you're not only running a data center that has its, cleaning, maintenance, and so forth structures, but you also are running a food production business eventually that comes with licenses and this and that, and proper supply chain management. So it comes with its own challenges, and you need to be ready for that. But eventually, there's multiple ways with plugging in with partners and this and that allow you to scale that. And we made that decision because we saw it coming that be it this epoch or the next epoch, probably Bitcoin with diminishing returns and increasing hash rate will see more and more difficulty truly operating pure Bitcoin mining data centers without any other revenue streams at the energy costs that we're seeing in the world. Or you're just limited to very, very few places where eventually you're ending up paying 2 cents per kilowatt hour. But there's only so many, and when they build out and there's more demand, prices will increase as well. So we do think that there is value to adding additional business models and plugging into a secondary income stream. You could potentially run very large scale mining centers due to scale of economics and scale of purchasing price and scale of energy price. I do think that is absolutely possible as well. There's also ways of, hedging against energy and Bitcoin prices with options and so forth, which could also make you sustainable just by running the data center. And there's a couple other cases in which I think not every miner needs to plug in with a secondary business model. But I do believe that the larger amount of miners will do so. Specifically, smaller miners will do that. I'm not a believer that every production industry or car manufacturer will have 10 miners in their facility. I'm not a believer that every house will have 1, 2, 3 miners in their house, because it also comes with quite some maintenance to be managed. And if you have one machine, okay, sure, you may be able to just repair it here and there. But if you have 10, 20 machines in your house, and you have one having an issue every month at least, I don't know if besides your day job you want to do that. True, or sure, some may have this as a hobby, but I think, that's my point of view.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, another topic is like centralization. I mean, I hear that every now and then that many believe biggest risk of centralization comes from Bitcoin mining pools that dominate the network. Do you see a risk? Do you see a risk there?
No, not really. I mean, if a Bitcoin mining pool is using its power and trying to signal decisions on the blockchain or in bit votings, users can immediately switch the pool from A to B. And there's basically such a low threshold of switching these pools that fraudulent activity or malicious activities would be punished by the miners with immediate effect. And therefore, I don't think there's a big risk, because there's no lockup risk in us being within a big pool.
So you don't feel any real dependency towards pools as a miner?
No, I don't. We can switch the pool from within. It takes me 10 seconds. It's a command, and the whole site is running on. I mean, obviously there's some changing time in between, but the site can be switched to a different pool within seconds.
And do you do that, or you have you not had a reason to do that yet?
We have switched multiple pools, but always for security reasons, for reporting reasons, and for profitability reasons. Yeah, we're looking at it from the perspective which one allows us to be good in reporting, because the pools have very different standards of how they report the income. They also have different standards of when the Bitcoin is delivered, and we're not necessarily a fan of waiting until end of day or a certain time period. We really like to receive it per share, and then obviously we're looking at fee structures, and there's better pools and worse pools.
Because I heard some pools just make a payout when the pool actually mines something, and others just pay according to hash rate, right?
Yeah, it's FFPS, and I don't know what the second version is, but fair per share, something per share. I don't know. I don't have it on the top of my mind right now, but there's one that basically distributes Bitcoin based on the hash rate that you're contributing to the pool. And no matter if they find a block, because eventually the chances equal out sooner or later, and then others are just paying out when they find a block. And obviously that's less. It's a less plannable kind of income, but eventually even those will equal out with the ones that are paying per share and are just covering the time period until they find a block. So both of them are ending up by, due to the probability of finding a block, with very similar numbers. But it is better and easier to plan, obviously, if you know this based on the shares or the hash rate that we're distributing, we're receiving shares. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. And you can invest in Green Mining DAO, right? Can you tell us a little bit how that works?
Of course. So what we're building is we're building separate sites currently with GM free, Green Mine free. We are launching, or we have launched our third site. And in our case, you can purchase actual shares in the company and receive dividends, so the profits of the company in Bitcoin into your wallet. Mm-hmm. So you are not becoming a customer of Green Mining DAO, and we're not hosting machines for you. You're not becoming a cloud computing owner and have some weird promising shares of nothing. But what you do is you become an actual shareholder in the shareholder registry, protected by Swiss law. And you basically buy into it. Yeah, ticket sizes start from 5,000 francs. And a share price is currently at 25 Rappen, no, somewhere between 20 and 25 Rappen. And you can buy as many shares as you want. And then you have participation rights in voting.
Sorry.
Pardon?
With a minimum of 5,000?
Yeah, minimum of 5,000. Yeah, minimum of 5,000 francs. And so we're a Swiss-based entity, right? So all of our companies are operating out of Switzerland, while we have in Paraguay a Paraguayan setup, but that is for the operations and basically managing our staff there. But the assets are all in the Swiss entities, and you're becoming a shareholder of the Swiss AG or a Swiss limited company, and have with those shares, you have voting power in our quarterly general meetings. You have profit participation rights and dividends and profits paid out. And you can also trade these shares. Currently, they're still locked, but once we're done with our final financing round, which we currently started, people can also trade the shares. And if they want to buy more, they can. If they want to sell them, they can. And that was also another important thing for us. Don't lock people up, but give them the chance to see it as an investment asset. And usually you want to, and sometimes you want to invest, and then you want to buy yourself a house or a car or a nice watch or whatever, and then you want to divest, and that is very difficult with a Bitcoin mining machine, but it's easier with a stock. And just like you're trading Apple and Amazon stocks, you can also trade the stocks of GM3 Technologies AG. And we find it's the best way because we're not earning as founding entity. We're not earning on the electricity price or on the managing the operations or whatever. But we're keeping equity in the company, and therefore, if our shareholders earn money, we earn money too. But if our shareholders don't earn money, we don't earn money either. So we're aligning the interest of the participants in the industry to really build a system which is beneficial for everyone. And that's another portion of your before mentioned question about sustainability, because we believe that this is the only way to build a sustainable business. And the average projected ROI per year is around 20%.
Yeah, wow, sounds interesting. And you are a DAO, so that's kind of a decentralized organization. Can you tell a little bit about how that actually works and how a decentralized institution or a structure can have a CEO, for example?
So what we interpret the DAO in our own way. We're not a decentralized autonomous organization. You would be autonomous if the organization is not independent or is independent of any rules and regulations and doesn't have to comply with legal setups and doesn't have to comply with local issues, which we have. We have assets that we need to own, so we need to have an entity. And that entity is in Switzerland, and therefore we're not fully autonomous of any regulations and rules. It is just simply not possible. There's no single solution to co-own together something in the real world that can be owned by a protocol. It doesn't work. It doesn't exist. Who is that protocol, or how is that protocol interacting with the real world, with that real world asset? That just doesn't work yet. So we're interpreting the decentralized structure in a way that we, first of all, tokenize the shares in those sites in a way that we as founders have the same shares and the same voting right and the same structure as everyone else in the entity. That's step number one. Step number two is we decentralize the ownership. So for us, it's not only the rules, regulations, the voting power, and the profit participation rights, but also the ownership. We're truly decentralizing the ownership of the data center, because it's not in our interest to own it and to then decide what we pay to our investors, but to really come on eye level, again, for the reason of sustainability. And then we're having a very high focus on transparency. This means we're meeting on, or first of all, we're giving access to the pool data, to the machine data, and various other information. We're giving monthly reports on profitability and KPIs, and we're giving quarterly reports in general meetings. So we're coming together on a quarterly basis, share our business results, lowlights, highlights, and opportunities, what's happening. And we're giving our shareholders every single time in general meetings a voice, voting for decisions. So for GM3, for example, we just had our EGM, or for GM3 and GMD, we had our EGMs last week. for the fourth quarter of 2024. Presented results and next quarter focus. And we also allowed our shareholders to vote on specific resolutions. And one of these resolutions is also every 1 year, the quarterly result, the financial results, the financial statements. And if they relieve the board and are satisfied with our work, they can. But if they have opposition and say, I would have done something different, or we want to vote you out, well, feel free to do so. We're basically, as the way that we've set it up that we do not have any overruling voting power and can keep and stay in the business as CEO or as board. Yeah, as basically. But we can be voted out at any time. And I think that is a very important mechanism where in multiple other businesses, you would set it up in a way that you keep the voting power. Yeah, you have shareholders, but eventually you still have the voting power over this and that. And that's what we try to get rid of, while still having mechanisms in place that allow the company to be have execution power, because nothing is more harming than not having any leadership team. If you have hundreds of people or thousands of people, all of different opinions, someone needs to pull these opinions together and move the company forward. Our approach is that specifically in the starting times of a Bitcoin data center, it's important to have that. But once the data center is running and everything is just operational, producing Bitcoin, and work tasks and forces are quite limited to overlook, and then someone comes up and says they have a better idea and clue how to operate and run the business, and we're more than open to step aside and let them operate the business.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, very bold, very honest, transparent. It reminds me a little bit of what Maya Parbu is trying to do. I'm not sure if you know her. She's the presidential candidate of Suriname.
Suriname, yeah. Sure.
And she wants to completely abolish taxes, make everything transparent, not make Bitcoin only legal tender, but even unit of account. And also, like, she's not even interested in power at all. She just wants to set it up and actually disappear as soon as possible. Kind of reminds me of that, and it's very bold. I hope it goes this way. Sounds very interesting. And what are the future plans? What are you up next to?
Well, I mean, what we're doing now is we just kicked off our third financing round in GM3. So our number one priority is getting the site fully operational by this year. So with 2 MW up and running, so 1/3 of the data center up and running, financed for the first 2 private rounds. We're very happy with having these goals achieved. We're planning to do the first Bitcoin dividend payout post this quarter in GM3. So that is our number one priority right now. The next step is also to initiate the construction for the drying facility in GM3. So right now we're busy with our food scientists to make everything HIPAA compliant, so that the export into other countries can work on the food that we're producing there. So those are 2 main focus areas, and we're going on a roadshow in Switzerland this first half year, where we can present the project and get some more shareholders on board. And as soon as this is done and structured, we're looking forward to expanding into new countries and new sites. That's up next. But right now we're absolutely focused on getting GM3 up and finalizing our beautiful project.
Yeah, wow. Sounds very interesting. Really appreciate you taking the time for the chat today.
Of course.
And sharing your experience. Yeah, sounds definitely interesting. Curious how it will turn out, and but I believe in it becoming very a long-lasting idea and stabilizing many things. So yeah, thanks so much for your time, and good luck, and maybe see you in one of the conferences in the future.
Absolutely. Well, come visit us anytime in Paraguay if you want to, and potentially see you around in the next futures. And again, Daniel, thank you for having me, and block and roll.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
One last thing before we wrap up. True freedom isn't just about what you can say, it's also about what you can do. When governments control your money, they also control your choices. They print endlessly, inflate away your savings, and decide who gets access to the system and who doesn't. Bitcoin changes that. It's apolitical, censorship resistant, and untouchable by any government. Your wealth, your rules. If you want to meet people who actually get this, independent thinkers, motivated, mainstream critical, and from all political backgrounds, BTC Prague is the place to be. It's the biggest Bitcoin event in Europe where ideas meet action. Get your ticket now, use my promo code for 10% off and support my channel. If you value my work, consider donating. Every contribution helps me keep going. Thank you.